Okay, so those two go with.
Hare Krishna Mataji, are you ready? Shall I start the recording?
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining. Mataji, you can take over.
Thank you, Mataji. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Krishna Chaitanyamishwaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are continuing our series on Ayodhya Kanda at this point in time. And we have finished Balakanda and we are quarter way through Ayodhya Kanda. It's a very, very big section of the Valmiki Ramayana. So it will take us a while to finish the entire Ayodhya Kanda. So I'll quickly offer prayers to Lord Ramachandra, Hanuman, and also Valmiki Muni. And then I'll also give you a very quick summary. I won't spend too much time on summary and just go really fast. And then we'll come to the point of discussion for today. Okay. Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam Valmiki Muni Samhasya Kavita Vanacharinaha Shanvan Ramakathanadam Konayate Paramgatim Vedavedye Parepumse Jate Dasharatatmaje Veda Pracheta Sadasit Sakshat Ramayanatmana Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kabisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulyavegam Jitendriyam Bhuttimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayudamukyam Sri Ramadotam Sri Rasan Namami Anjaneya Madipatanaranam Kanchanadri Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Tarumulavasinam Bhavayami Bhaumananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam Jayatrashrata Santrasattvantva Vidvamsanodayaha Prabhavan Sitaya Devya Paramavyoma Bhaskaraha Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rami Rami Manorami Sahasranama Tattulyam Shri Rama Nama Varanani. So, Ayodhya Kanda is a description of the Lord's glorious qualities. Just like how in Balakanda we understand that this husband of the goddess of fortune, Shriyapati, is the supreme Lord through the pages of the Balakanda. Through the pages of Ayodhya Kanda, we see the beautiful description of the Lord's glorious qualities. We saw in the introduction to the description of the Lord's qualities in Balakanda, we saw a list of 16 glorious qualities. But these qualities are exhibited by the Lord in the Ayodhya Kanda. The Ayodhya Kanda began with a very famous verse where Shatrughna and Bharata, they went to Kekeya Desh. Meanwhile, Ramachandra was in Ayodhya and he was becoming an expert and very, very qualified to become a prince. Looking at the wonderful qualities he had, Dasharatha Maharaj desired to crown him. So he called for the people to get their opinion, and he also asked the ministers if he should crown Rama as the prince. And they said they had been waiting for this day. So they chose the month of Chaitra, which was the time when this discussion was happening, which is around the month of April. And during this time, the coronation ceremony was decided to happen. So once they had come to a decision that they would be coronating Ram, Dasharatha Maharaj, he called for Ramachandra and he gave some instructions to Ramachandra. And then Ramachandra goes ahead, he takes blessings from his mother and he enters a vow at the temple of Lord Ranganath, which is the worshipable deity of the Ikshvaku dynasty. The city of Ayodhya was getting ready. Meanwhile, Manthara saw all these preparations and she successfully brainwashed Kaikeyi. So Kaikeyi's mind was poisoned. She entered Kopagraham, and Dashrath Maharaj, he came to console her, and that is when she asks for her boons. So with one boon, she said, Dashrath Maharaj has to send Ramachandra to the forest for 14 years, and Bharata would rule the kingdom with whatever paraphernalia was collected for the coronation of Lord Ram. Dashrath laments in various ways. The night ends, and then Sumantra entered the palace in the morning, and Ramachandra was asked to come. And that is when Kaikeyi revealed about the information about the boons. And immediately Ramachandra, without any hesitation, he accepted to go to the forest. And of course, Dashrath's heart was broken. And then Lord Ramachandra says, I will go immediately, but I just have to tell 2 people before I leave. So he goes to Mother Kausalya's palace and he informs her. And Mother Kausalya, after a lot of lamentation and after a lot of argument with Lakshmana, finally, Kausalya blesses Lord Rama and allows him to go. Lakshmana was still angry, but then finally Ramachandra, he moves on to Sita's palace and he tries to convince her in various ways. And then Sita says, no, there is no way I will live without you. Wherever you go, that is the place I will be in. So finally, Sita wins the argument and Sita insists that she would go ahead with Lord Ram. While they were walking out, Lakshman came and he held on to the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, the Lakshmana Sharanagati, and he said, I want seva. So the Lord couldn't resist. So he said, okay, come along. And it was a grand success. And Lakshman also went along with Lord Ramachandra. Dasharath Maharaj, he requested the 3 of them to stay back for the night because it was already close to evening. So he was requesting them, please stay back for the night and you can go tomorrow. But then Kaikeyi was literally like how one whips a horse, saying, go, 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 like that. She kept asking them to leave immediately. Sumantra explodes. Sumantra is the minister and the charioteer. Being the minister and the charioteer, he wouldn't speak when it's not necessary. I mean, he would only speak as needed. And he was very respectful to everybody around him. But still, the thought of Ramachandra going to the forest was so painful to Sumantra. And he saw the reaction of Dashrath Maharaj, that Dashrath Maharaj was also not happy. He exploded and he spoke about Kaikeyi's parentage as well. He told why Kaikeyi has these qualities. And then Vasishta Muni, he said, nothing doing, they are not going to the forest. If Ramchandra has to go because of the boons that you have taken, why should Sita go? In fact, Sita is capable of sitting on the throne and ruling the country. But then Sita, she decides to just follow her husband, and Dasharath forbids Sita from wearing the tree bark, clothes made of tree bark. He cries and he says, it is not possible. She should not be wearing this. Though Kaikeyi offered robes made out of tree bark for Sita, Dasharath stopped and he said that she should go with full sari, all ornaments, everything should be given to her. And Kausalya advises Sita that she should be a good wife. And Sita says, yes, I already know all of this. I have been instructed by my parents and I will do as it pleases you all. And then Lakshman, he goes to get blessings from Sumitra Devi. And Sumitra Devi gives a very, very beautiful blessing. And she gives lovely instructions. And we analyze that instruction in 5 different meanings. Ramam Dhasharatam Viddi, Mam Viddi Janakatmajam, Ayodhya Matavim Viddi, Gachatata Yatha Sukham. Very, very wise woman. And Ramachandra, he started along with Sita Devi and Lakshman in their journey. Dasharath cried, he fainted, Kausalya lamented, and then our Sumitra Devi, she consoled even Kausalya with very, very nice, mature, wise words. Then the people, they couldn't resist. Even the Brahmanas who were doing their Agnihotra sacrifices, even they started following Lord Ramachandra, holding the fire in their hand. They were holding the articles of fire sacrifice without stopping their sacrifice. They were walking behind Lord Ramachandra and they were requesting Lord Rama, please don't leave us. Do you really want to stop all our sacrifices? Is that the reason why you're going? We are not going to leave you at any cost. So they were performing Vajpayee Yajnas. They were also following Lord Rama. So like this, the Brahmanas were crying and they were asking Ramachandra to stop. And Lord Ram, out of respect, he got down from the chariot because he was seeing old Brahmanas are walking like this. So out of respect, he got down from the chariot, but still he continued to walk. And then finally, they reached the banks of the river Tamasa. And that is where Ramachandra decides to stay for the night. Now remember, the citizens of Ayodhya are also staying with Lord Ramachandra at this point in time. So it was dark and Lord Ramachandra, he decided to stop at the banks of the river Tamasa. And he looked at Sita and Lakshman and he told them, oh, Lakshman and Sita, both of you, please don't feel anxious. Everything will be fine with us. Today is the very first night that we are going to spend in the forest. So may all be well with you. And he thinks about his father and he says, oh, my father, Dasharath, he would be lamenting tonight. I don't think my father will sleep. And my wonderful mother, illustrious mother, she will even become blind by just crying the entire night. And he also thanks Lakshman for coming with him. Initially, he was resisting. He was telling Lakshmana, don't come. But now he was thinking, thank you, Lakshman. He says, it's nice that you have come with me because otherwise I would have needed to ask for a different help to protect Sita from time to time in the forest because sometimes I have to leave Sita and go and hunt and there'll be nobody to guard her. But it is such a blessing that you are with me. So he says, I will live in the forest hereafter. We will live together. We will just live on wild fruits and roots. And this will become our lifestyle and we will start liking it. So then Ramachandra, he looked at the charioteer Sumantra and he told Sumantra, please take good care of the horses because the sun was setting and the horses needed some food and some water. So he asked Sumantra to take the horses to the nearby place so that they could be given some fodder and some water and they could get nourished. Then Sumantra and Lakshman together, they made a bed made out of leaves for the sake of Rama and Sita to sleep. And while Ramachandra was getting ready to sleep and Lakshman was making this beautiful bed for him, Lakshmana was recounting Lord Rama's qualities. And he was telling Sumantra how great my brother is. So he was recounting the glorious qualities of Ramachandra while making the bed. And Sumantra and Lakshmana, they decided to just keep awake that entire night to guard Ramachandra and Sita while they are taking rest. So while this was going on, Ramachandra, he observed, while Sumantra and Lakshmana finished making the bed and they called Ram, Ramachandra, he observed that so many throngs of citizens, so many number of people had come with him all the way to the banks of the river Tamasa. So Ramachandra was telling Lakshman, look at these citizens. They are always longing for us. They don't even care about their homes. They are ready to sleep on the ground at the roots of trees. This should not be the case of our citizens. The citizens of Ayodhya should never be put to such distress of lying down under trees. They should be given comfortable quarters to live in. We are, we have been the prince. We have been under the tutelage of Dasharath Maharaj, Vasishta Muni, and so on. How can we let our citizens have this kind of trouble? So he looks at Sumantra and he asks Sumantra, Sumantra, can you do me a favor? Can you get the chariot ready? And after the people have slept in the middle of the night, I made a request. We will actually alight the chariot, myself, Lakshmana, Sita, and you. We will get into the chariot. And oh, Sumantra, what you need to do is you need to drive the chariot northward towards Ayodhya. And then after a point in time, just take a different route and go back to the forest. That way, the citizens will think that we are actually going back to Ayodhya. Following the marks of the chariot, they will also go to Ayodhya. But then we will actually proceed in a different route back to the forest. So Sita, Ram, and Lakshman, in the middle of the night, they proceeded to the chariot and they started riding towards the forest. First, they went through northward towards Ayodhya, and then they took a shortcut and they went into the forest, and the chariot went away. Now, that day, early morning, when the citizens woke up, they were looking for Lord Ramachandra. Their eyes were searching for Lord Ram and they were missing Rama. They were going around trying to find where he was. And they were lamenting. They couldn't see Lord Ramachandra. So they were telling, how did this chief of the Raghus, who was always ready to award protection to us, who was like a father to us, how could he leave us in the forest and how could he proceed? What happened? And then they saw the tracks of the chariot. So they decided to follow the tracks of the chariot, and the tracks of the chariot took them all the way to Ayodhya. And they realized that they were tricked, actually, because they could see that actually they went all the way back to Ayodhya, but then Ramachandra was not in Ayodhya. So seeing that Ram was not there, everybody became very, very morose. There was no happiness in their faces. All the merchants, they had so many goods, but they wouldn't bring their goods for sale. None of the merchandise they had looked charming. Nobody had proper decorations on the house. In fact, even the women did not attend to cooking. In fact, even if there was a child born in a family, they were not even happy about it. So the women in the city of Ayodhya, they were chastising their husbands for leaving Ramachandra and coming back. They were chastising their husbands, saying, you should have been vigilant. You should have been watching Ram. What did you do? Everybody slept and Rama went away. So they were telling, the only good man in this entire world is Lakshman. You all are useless. Lakshman is the only good man in this entire world because he has loyally followed Lord Ramachandra and Sita. And they were also glorifying Sita in various ways. And they were telling how fortunate are the rivers and the mountains and the forests. They are so fortunate because they are getting Ram's darshan each and every day. And we are all so unfortunate. So they were telling their husbands, we are going to leave you and go. We will go and become maid servants of Sita in the forest. So like that, in great agony, they were lamenting and they were crying, telling about how much separation they are feeling from Lord Ram, Sita, and Lakshman. So there is a lesson here for all of us. Yes, the citizens were lamenting. They were at this point in time helpless. They didn't know how to go back to the forest, where to find Ram, etc. So though they ended up lamenting, but the point is the citizens were not vigilant, right? This is also our case. These are some lessons that we can derive from certain aspects or certain sections of the Ramayana. When we are not vigilant in bhakti, when we tend to sleep when something important is happening, like when we, instead of progressing in bhakti, if we become very lax, that is the idea, we will also be cheated eventually, like the citizens of Ayodhya. We will miss the association of Krishna. So it is very, very important to be very vigilant in our bhakti related activities and not take it easy. That is one of the lessons that is being taught by Guru Maharaj. So I'm just repeating that lesson, that we have to really be vigilant in bhakti. So Rama, he proceeds further into the forest. But then as he's proceeding further into the forest, he also travels through various countryside. Like if you can imagine Ayodhya to be a city, there are many villages, right? When you pass through the entire state. So like that, Ramachandra, he continued to continue to move in his chariot along with Lakshman, Sita, and Sumantra. And the people back in Ayodhya, they were lamenting and they were feeling separation from Ram. And some of the citizens were even telling, actually, our situation in Ayodhya is really, really bad. It is like as if we are beasts and the butcher is Kaikeyi and we beasts are given into the hand of the butcher Kaikeyi. So like that, they were thinking about their own situation and they were thinking, who wants to live in this city which is not ruled by Ram? This is not even a city. In fact, this should become a forest and the forest should become a city. And the sun sank that day. It was getting dark that day, and the people's hearts were burning with agony. Ramachandra, when he was traversing through the countryside, he traversed the entire night. Entire night. He went through different places into the forest, and finally, when it was dawn, when it was the morning twilight, he got down from the chariot and he went and he performed his morning rituals. Then he got onto his chariot again after being refreshed. He decided to proceed, and that is when, early the next day morning, when he was going through a village side, people started coming out of the houses. And they saw Lord Ramachandra, Sita Devi, and Lakshman and Sumantra going by that place. In fact, news travels very, very fast. Time travels fast. Our mind travels fast, and also news gossip also travels very fast, right? So the news had already spread to the countryside. So the people were coming out of their houses when they heard chariot sound, thinking this must be Lord Ramachandra. So they all hurriedly came out and they saw, oh Rama, and they started lamenting, thinking, oh, why did Dasharath send you to the forest? How will Vaidehi stay in the forest? She's so accustomed to comforts. This Kaikeyi is so wicked. How could she expel you, who's so perfect in everything, to the forest? So like this, Ramachandra was hearing all these different shouts from the people in the countryside. So he just acknowledged everybody's affection, and then they proceeded towards the waters called as Veda Shruti. So Ramachandra, he crosses at least 5 different rivers at this point in time. And the names of the rivers will slowly be revealed. So he crosses the river Veda Shruti, and then he goes to the region that is occupied by sage Agastya. So sage Agastya was in one part of the forest there. And Lord Ramachandra, he goes to that region. Ramachandra not only crossed Vedashruti, he also crossed river Gomati, and he reached the other side of the bank of the river Gomati along with his horses. And then he crossed another river by the name Saindika, which had many peacocks and swans. Then finally, this was going towards the end of the Koshala Desh. So Ramachandra, he showed Sita the entire land, and he said that this is the southern boundary of our country, and it is defined by the Saindika river. So he shows that entire boundary of the Kosala Desh. And he says, till here, once upon a time, Manu gave this city to Ikshvaku, and then Ikshvaku gave it to his descendant, and like that it was passed on till my father. So he showed all the territories that were under the control of Dasharath. Then once he was crossing the borders of Kosala, he turned his face towards this territory, and with folded hands, he said bye-bye. He bid farewell to his birthland. And he said, these cities will be carefully protected by Dasharath of the Kakutstha dynasty. And he feels grateful for this land for giving him shelter, and he bids farewell. And he tells this land, I will soon return. I have a debt. I'm going because I have a debt. I have to fulfill my father's vow. So I'm going out of this place, but I will soon return. And he raises his right arm and having a very morose look, his face covered with tears, his eyes being very, very reddish. He also spoke to the people in the countryside who were trying to follow him. So not only were the people of Ayodhya trying to follow him, even people in the countryside were also running behind him in the behind the chariot. So with a lot of affection and love, the border, he looked at these people and he told them, "You all have shown me so much compassion and love, but don't carry so much pain in your heart. Don't have this agony in your heart. Please go back and carry on with your duties. You cannot follow me into the forest, so please return." So he begs all of them to return, and they all circumambulated Ramachandra, and Ramachandra proceeded towards the Ganga. So this was the next river he went on to. The beautiful Ganga that was bedecked with very, very nice aquatic animals, where the Siddhas, Charanas, Gandharvas, and all the demigods would come and sport. This Ganga is very glorious because it emanated from the lotus feet of the Lord, and it landed in the matted locks of the hair of Lord Shankara. And by the power of their own ancestor, Bhagiratha, this Ganga was brought down into earth. So, recounting the glories of Mother Ganga, they proceeded further and they reached the great town of Sringiverapuram. So, this is a turning point and a very, very beautiful exchange between Lord Ramachandra and his dear friend Guha. So Ramachandra, he showed a big fig tree that was there on the banks of the river Ganga in Sringiverapuram. And he said, "We will take rest at this fig tree." So there is also a mention that the journey of Lord Ramachandra started on Panchami Tithi of Shukla Paksha Chaitra Masa. Okay, so keep that in mind, because eventually we will track the entire travel of Lord Ram, and we'll come back, and then we'll see how the journey was and what are the different points in time where Ramachandra was in different places. So Shukla Paksha Panchami Tithi Chaitra Mas was the time when that day around evening, like maybe post afternoon around evening, he left Ayodhya. Then he reached the place of this fig tree on the banks of the river Ganges. At that time, there was a great twist, but an entry of a great personality. Tatra Raja Guho Nama Ramasya Atmasamasaka Nishada Jatyo Balavan Stipatihi Cha Iti Vishruta. So there was a great person by the name Guha, Raja Guha. He was a king. Okay, he was a king of whom? He was a king of the Nishada Jati, the forest hunters. He was the king of the forest hunters. Guho Nama, his name was Guha. And is that all his glory is? No. He was Ramasya Atma Samasaka. Atma Sama. Atma Sama means equal to one's own life. Okay. So a friend who was equal to one's own life, that was Guha. Now, already Valmiki is introducing Guha to be a friend of Lord Ramachandra, but we have not seen Ramachandra and Guha, have playing in childhood or something like that. This is the first time we are seeing them meet, but already the introduction is Guha is Ramasya Atmasakha. So the commentators, they tell us that actually Ramachandra, when he would go to the forest for hunting, there would be a lot of hunting trade that happens. So these Nishadas, they would bring a lot of articles from the forest, because that is a result of their hunting, right? Nishadas, they go and they hunt in the forest. You all know, like from the animals, you can gather so much. You can get horns, you can get claws, like the tiger claw jewels. You can get the elephant hair that is used to make jewelry. Like that, you get lots of things. You get deer skin, which is very, very precious. So like that, there are so many things that can be gathered just by hunting, and also forest related products, resources, so many things. So during those trade and during the hunting expeditions, that time when Ramchandra was a youngster, that time itself, he came in contact with Guha and he made great friendships with Guha. Okay, so this is the commentary that states that already there were both of them, they had great friendship whenever Ram would go on a hunting expedition. Nishada Jatyo Balavan, he was very, very strong, not only strong, but he had a huge army. He had the entire region under his control and he was the king of all the Nishadas. So, like this, there was a great king by the name Guha who was the dear friend of Ram, as good as his own life. He was a Nishada by birth. He was strong and he was known as the ruler of the Nishadas. So when Guha saw that Lord Ramachandra had come to his area, he came hurrying. He came running to see his dear friend. And he looked very distressed. That there was so much distress on the face of Guha. So the question is, why was Guha distressed? No, he was not distressed that, oh, he's seeing Ram and he's getting distressed. It's not that. Guha, he had already heard the news because the news travels very fast. News had spread far and wide, even without WhatsApp and newspapers and Facebook or whatever. Without all this, without Twitter, Instagram, news was already gone. So Guha came running when he saw that his dear friend had come. And Ramachandra, seeing the distressed face of Guha, he was even more distressed. So the minute this Nishada came, Ramachandra and Guha, they saw each other face to face. They embraced each other immediately. So Ramachandra, he never had any reservations. Like we saw in the previous session, how there was a Brahmin by the name Trijata who hardly had a cloth to cover himself. And Ramachandra, the first thing he did was he went and embraced him, and then he just for fun, he said, okay, why don't you throw this stick and I will give you all the cows that can cover that area. So similarly, here also absolutely no reservations. He goes and he embraces Guha, and he's so happy to see his friend. At the same time, he's feeling very pained in his heart. Now, Guha is feeling pained because he's seeing Rama in ascetic robes. He's seeing him wearing barks of trees, and he had been banished from the city of Ayodhya. But then why was Rama pained? So Rama said, every step you took coming towards me, it was so painful to see that you're taking so much effort just to walk towards me. Every step you took is like doing archana to me. For every step, it was like you did like archana with flowers to me. But I am very pained looking at how much your leg would have been hurt and pained for you to walk towards me. So that's what Ramachandra says, and he embraces Guha very lovingly. And Guha says, see, this place, this is as good as Ayodhya for you. You have come here. Please consider this to be your own home. Okay, consider this to be as good as Ayodhya. This is your home. Tell me what I can do for you. You become the ruler here. You sit here and you take care of everything. We will serve you. So like that, Guha, he offers everything to Lord Ramchandra and he says, you just stay here and we will take very, very good care of you. Who will not want to have such a lovely gift? So like that, he says. And immediately he tells all his people to bring cooked food. So they bring nice white rice, various dishes of various kinds. Here is that verse that says, Bhakshyam bhojyam cha peyam cha lehyam cha idam upastitam shayanani cha mukyani vajinam kadanam cha te. So he gives him different kinds of foods to eat. You all know the 4 kinds of foods, right? Chaturvidha Bhagavat Prasada. Anybody wants to say what those 4 kinds of food is? That which is
Food that is
Chewed,
chewed,
licked,
is licked, that is sucked.
drunk.
yes,
And what?
drunk, right? She said.
Okay.
Drunk.
All right. Thank you, Madhuri.
Thank you. So that is what he did also. He got different kinds of food that can be chewed, food that can be drunk, food that are like syrups, like you can lick them, and some foods that can be sucked, and so on. So he brings all of this, and he also brings food for the horses. But then Ramachandra very gently, he presses his muscular arms, it is mentioned, and he tells Guha, thank you so much for bringing all this. And I'm so happy to be seeing you in good health with all your relatives. So, is your kingdom all well? Are your allies and treasure all well? So, he's inquiring from Guha as to how he was doing. And then, after inquiring nicely and thanking him for his hospitality, Ramachandra says, I cannot accept your hospitality. I know you have given so much affection to me, but then I have taken the vow of an ascetic. I have to live in the forest. I cannot live and eat food that is given in cities and towns. So I'm wearing barks of robes and deer skin, and I should only eat what is available in the forest, like fruits and berries, things like that. So he says, these horses, they are very dear to me because they were taken very good care by Dashrath Maharaj. I'll be honored if my horses are fed nicely. So he immediately, Guha says, let water be brought for the horses and let them be taken good care of. And Ramachandra, he took only water that was brought by Lakshman for drinking. He said he cannot accept all the food that was given by Guha. So Ramachandra and Sita, they decide to retire for the night there. And Lakshmana also was there with him. So Lakshmana, understanding that they want to retire for the night, Guha ensured that again bed is made of leaves and twigs. Such a kind of bed was made for Ramchandra and Sita Devi. And Lakshmana, he goes and he washes and wipes the feet of Lord Ramchandra before Ramchandra goes to bed. So again, the commentator says that it was a tradition that kings and princes, when they go to bed, there would be one servant who goes and wipes their feet and ensures that that the king or the prince is comfortable. Lakshmana was thinking in his heart, oh, this is such a great prince who's here and who's going to wipe his feet now? I am there. I am the only one with him. So let me go and wipe his feet because he's so accustomed to it. So he wipes his feet and ensures that Ramchandra can take rest. Another meaning is that Lakshmana is his natural tendency is servitude. He's Sesha, right? His innate nature is servitude. So being the original servant, he shows by example that when the Lord is there with him, he doesn't refuse to seize any single opportunity that is there to serve the Lord. So out of the mood of service, he goes and he wipes the lotus feet of Lord Ramchandra. And that day night, Guha, Lakshmana, they have a very nice conversation because both of them, they wanted to keep awake to ensure that Ramachandra and Sita Devi sleep nicely. They did not want to sleep. So Lakshmana and Guha, they were having a long conversation. And similarly, in Ayodhya also, that day night, Dasharath was lying on the floor while the whole night passed. He was also feeling very intense separation. He was thinking, my Ramachandra will be sleeping on the floor. And he was also sleeping on the floor thinking of his dear son. Guha, he tells Lakshman that actually it is very painful for me to see Ram and Sita lying down, and it is also painful for me to see you keeping awake. I see that you have a lot of sincere love and affection for your brother, but I've also made a bed for you, my dear friend. So, Lakshmana, please come and relax. Lie down comfortably. You also need to sleep. And Guha says, we are all forest dwellers. We are very habituated to hardships. But you are coming from a palace. As much as Ramchandra as a prince, you're also a prince. So why don't you lie down? And Guha says, along with my men, I will protect all of you very, very nicely with the bow and arrow in my hand. So Lakshman, he smiles and he says, yes, you will protect. You are great. You're a wonderful devotee. You are a Nishada. You are a forest dweller and you know how to protect people here. All that is right. But you know why I can't sleep? I cannot sleep because when I see Ramachandra, who's the son of Dasharath, lying on the ground with Sita, how is it possible for me to even think of sleeping? I cannot even sleep, looking at this distressed condition. He says, I'm not getting sleep, so I don't want to sleep. And he says, my dear Guha, I'm just thinking of the people back in Ayodhya, Kausalya and Dasharath. I don't even know if they're going to hold their life tonight. And maybe my mother, Sumitra, she's a strong woman, looking forward to seeing Shatrugna. She might stay alive, but then it will be so painful for Kausalya. And I don't know if she'll really, hold on to her life or she'll give up her life tonight. And he starts thinking about what all can happen. He's thinking if Dasharath dies, Kausalya will also die. And if Kausalya dies, my mother will also die. Then everybody will die. And it will be such a terrible feeling for everyone. So he is asking Guha, do you think Dasharath will hold on to his life till we return? Do you think we will return after 14 years safely? So, like that, Lakshmana was thinking of different possibilities and he was lamenting and he kept talking and talking, and the night passed. And Guha, as he was listening to Lakshman, he was shedding tears like an elephant that is tormented with fever as he was listening to all the words that were spoken by Lakshmana. And then finally, the night ended. Then the next day morning, Rama, he called Lakshman and he said, oh, my dear brother, do you hear the cries of the peacocks resounding in the forest? Can you hear the flowing of Ganga in the water? I mean, in the nearby river. So it's a very, very beautiful place, but it is time for us to cross this river and go to the forest. So Guha, when he heard this instruction, he came forward with folded hands and he told, my dear Lord, I understand that you want to cross the river. I will ensure that there is a boat arranged for you. And tell me, what else can I do? What else can I do to serve you? So Ramchandra was very, very pleased with the immediate action of Guha bringing the boat. And he told Lakshman and Sita, it's time we proceed. Let's proceed towards the river. But then there was one more person who was with them. That person was Sumantra. Sumantra was still sticking with them, right? He came with the chariot. So he was still sticking around. So Sumantra, he joins his palms in humility and he said, okay, you gave instructions to Guha. You said you're going to cross over and go to the forest. Do you have any instructions for me? What should I do? Please tell me what I should do. So when Sumantra asked this, Ramachandra touched his right hand and he said, oh, Sumantra, you go back to the palace. Go to the king's presence immediately and go and serve him nicely. That is your service. Your service to me is already completed. It is only a short period of service, but your real service is serving the king. So hereafter, I cannot move around in the chariot. I will give up the chariot and I'm going to get into the forest through the boat. And once I get into the forest, I will be just walking. It's time for you to go back to your original service. Sumantra starts crying and he says, oh, Rama, nobody in this world should suffer like you. He says, I think there is no reward in leading a life of dharma. You're such a religious student. You were studying scriptures. You were cultivating such great qualities and straightforwardness. But then how did all this adversity come unto you? So everybody's question, right? A person who's a great devotee who's following everything nicely, oh, they end up having trouble and we are lamenting and we are thinking, how come this adversity can come to a person like you? Nobody should suffer like you. So like that, Sumantra, he was telling this to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also shows by example. This world is actually a place of suffering. We are suffering every day. We undergo so many different adversities. But the Lord showed by example, even he went through a lot of adversity. These adversities, he very nicely went through that entire process in a very dignified manner. And he showed the world how one should face adversities. So we can take a lot of lessons not only from the great Vaishnavas that is mentioned in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, but even the Supreme Lord, He Himself shows the world how to handle adversities with the right spirit, in the right dignity. So Lord Rama, our Sumantra, he was glorifying Lord Ram, and he was telling, for the kind of patience and tolerance you have, you will all go to a very, very high status. And Sumantra, he wept for a long time, and he says that actually, I don't want to leave you. I think I just want to accompany you. So then Ramachandra, he said, actually, we Ikshvakus, our entire dynasty is so fortunate to have a minister like you. This is the biggest blessing we have had. But Sumantra, you have to actually go back to the emperor. Please go serve him. Don't do anything that is not pleasing to him. I also have a message that I want you to carry. So please go and tell the king that indeed neither me nor Lakshman nor Sita, all the three of us, are not grieving. We have moved on from Ayodhya, and we will surely go to the forest, and we will stay in the forest. After completing 14 years, once more, all of us will come, and we will come and see the king after 14 years in Ayodhya. So this is what you should go and tell the king. And please ask about the health of my mothers. I hope they are doing well, and convey our obeisances along with that of Sita. So also offer our obeisances to the emperor. And also, once you go there, ensure that Bharat is brought to the kingdom quickly. And after Bharata's arrival, I hope Bharata is installed in the position as a king, and send our regards to the new king. Send the regards of Sita, Lakshman, and me to the new king. And also tell Bharata that he should treat all the mothers equally, and he should behave very favorably to the king. Tell him that as much affection he has for Kaikeyi, it should also be there for Sumitra and Kausalya. And these are the little instructions I have for my younger brother Bharat, and also convey my obeisances to my mother and father. So he says this. And Sumantra at that time, he said, actually, you're telling me to go back to Ayodhya, but just imagine, when I go back to Ayodhya, I cannot see the cry and distress of the people. The minute they see me with an empty chariot, it is going to be a big catastrophe. Everybody is going to wail and cry. How do you think you're asking me to go and talk to your mother? Do you think I have the strength to go and face your mother and tell her I left you in the forest? And I don't think I can really go back to Ayodhya. So Ramachandra, you know what you should do? Just allow me to accompany you to the forest. And with the help of this chariot, I will take you to all the places inside the forest, and I will ward off all the envious animals, the dangerous animals. I will ensure no obstacles are there when you're performing austerities in the forest. And even these horses can render service to you. If they render service to you, they will attain perfection and they'll go to the supreme abode. So why should I go back to Ayodhya? Rather, it is better for me to just follow you and serve you for 14 years. And at the end of the 14 years, let us all go back to Ayodhya together. That will be the best service that I get. And he says, just like how a person who has committed a lot of sins cannot enter Indra's Amaravati, similarly, I have also committed a big sin by taking you away from Ayodhya. So how do you think I can enter Ayodhya again? It is not possible. They are not going to accept me in Ayodhya. Sumantra says, my true desire is to stay with you for 14 years throughout your exile, and then once for all, after 14 years in the same chariot, I will take you back to Ayodhya. So like this, Sumantra says, if I live with you, even 14 years will just move like a second. But otherwise, if I am in Ayodhya and separation from you, even 1 second will be like 100 years. So Rama, he now says, no, that is not correct. You are the favorite charioteer of your master Dasharath, and you have a lot of devotion to me, I agree. but still your duty is to go and serve Dasharath. And one more thing, not only go and serve Dasharath, there is also another reason, my selfish reason, why I'm telling that you should go. You should go because when you go back to Ayodhya, that time Kaikeyi will be convinced and she will get proof that Rama has gone to the forest. She will be completely satisfied that yes, I am indeed in the forest and the chariot is empty, and you have returned with the good news to her that I am in the forest, and there will be no suspicion in her heart. And she will know that you are a person who never speaks the untruth. You always speak the truth. So she will believe you. So that is my first priority. I want my mother to be satisfied, Mother Kaikeyi to be satisfied, and she should be assured that the kingdom is for her and her son. The kingdom will be ruled by her son. So this is the best thing you can do for my sake and for Dasharath's sake and for the sake of everyone. First go and convince Kaikeyi that I will not come back to Ayodhya and I've gone to the forest. So like this, Ramachandra, he consoles Sumantra in various ways. Though Sumantra was resisting, still he was asked to return. Then Sumantra was asked to leave, but leave meaning, he said, Sumantra, you cannot accompany me further into the forest. But Sumantra doesn't leave at this point in time. Okay. Sumantra waits in the region of Guha for a while and then only he leaves. But now Ramachandra, he talks to Guha. So he tells Guha that I'm going to go to the forest. You brought the boat. But then when I'm living in the forest, I should live like a hermit, right? I should not live like a prince in the forest. So the best way to live like an ascetic in the forest is to have matted hair. So he asks Guha to go and bring the latex from a banyan tree, because latex was collected in those days to mat hairs. When people would live in the forest, they would mat their hair. So Ramachandra, he asked this Guha to bring latex. Latex was brought, and then he applied it on his head, and then he rolled it up like that into a top knot. And similarly, even Lakshmana applied latex to his hair, and he matted his locks and he tied it together like ascetic sages. Now, nothing is written about Sita. But then the commentator says Sita also applied latex to her hair simply because her Lord had applied it. She was just trying to follow him in every step. So even she also applied latex to her hair, and they rolled up their hair like ascetics. So then Ramachandra, he told Lakshman, the boat has come. What you need to do is first you allow Sita to enter the boat carefully. And once she has entered the boat, then you go behind her and then I will go. So he asks Lakshman to guide her so that she's comfortably gone in first, and then you go and then I will come right behind. So like that, the three of them, they get into the boat. And one of the boatmen of the Nishada Guha, he was ready to row the boat. Now, there is absolutely no information about the boatman. I've heard from all of you in the past when I did the same series many years ago, maybe 7 years ago or 5 years ago. It was more of it was not with commentaries, but it was just a simple series. That time I heard there is a character by the name Kevat in other renditions of the Ramayana, like Tulsidas' rendition. So common question asked at that time, the first time I heard this name Kevat, I was blank. I don't know who he was. I had absolutely no idea. I kept asking that Mataji, who's Kevat? I've never heard about him. But then it seemed to be very commonly and famously known to everybody. So I just want to make a comment here that there is no mention of the name of the boatman or any story about him, nothing about the interaction between the boatman and the three of them in the Valmiki Ramayana. But definitely the other retellings of Ramayana must have information, and not to discount the information that the other retellings have. I just wanted to tell you to make a note. There is no information about the boatman. It is just mentioned that one of the boatmen of this Nishada Guha rowed them across the river. That's all, River Ganga. That's it. So Ramachandra and Lakshman and Sita, they sipped some water as per scriptural injunctions, and they paid their obeisances and they started going in the boat. So they bid farewell while they were seated on the boat. They said bye-bye to Guha, and they asked the boatman to actually row the boat. Now, when they came to the middle of the Bhagirathi river, Ganga, Sita Devi, she looked towards Ganga and she started making a few promises to Mother Ganga with folded palms. She prayed to Mother Ganga and she also made a few promises to Ganga. She said, "Oh, Mother Ganga, let Ramachandra, who's the son of Dasharath, let him successfully honor his father's command. You give him protection. He will be dwelling in the forest for 14 years. And hope we are successful in executing the vow. And when we return with all the three of us return, I will worship you. Once I come back to Ayodhya, I will worship you with great joy. And when we all return and we regain the kingdom, I will give away 1 lakh cows, soft clothing, food to Brahmanas. That way you are pleased. I will also make many, many offerings to the lower deities that are guarding the river. So there are many deities along the villages in the rivers, right? So I will make all these offerings to these deities as well." So like that, she makes promises that once we return, we will honor you very nicely. So give us protection so that we may be able to execute our vow. Then they all proceeded further into the river and they reached the other side of the bank. Then Rama, he tells Lakshmana, "Lakshmana, you get down first and go in the front. When we are going into the jungle, you first get down and go in the front. Let Sita be behind you, and I will follow you and Sita, giving protection from the back." And then he tells Lakshman, we should ensure that we are giving protection to each other and be vigilant all the time. So Lakshman, he says yes, and they get down, and Lakshman keeps turning every few seconds with tear-filled eyes, looking at his brother and sister-in-law as they are walking. So it was dusk time, so they had to stop and they had to perform their rituals. And again, Lakshmana, he made a very nice bed made of grass and straw, and he asked Ramachandra to lie down on that bed. And Rama told Lakshman, "This is going to be our first night without the presence of Sumantra, so we have to be very careful. This is the very first night inside the forest." And he says that if tonight even Dasharath will not rest well, he will not be satisfied. Since we left, I don't think Dasharath Maharaj would be sleeping. So anyway, he starts lamenting in various ways. He thinks about the curse of Kaikeyi, how Kaikeyi actually banished them. And he was also thinking about the pitiable position of Dasharath. He was telling our father he was prone to sensuous pleasures and he neglected his true interest. So like this, if a person pursues sensuous pleasures, neglecting his real interests and discipline, he will soon come to distress. Similarly, our father also, he became into great distress. Why is he not sleeping today? It is because he gave in to the temptation of Kaikeyi and listened to her words. So actually, Ramachandra says a few things about Kaikeyi also. Ramachandra says it seems that Kaikeyi came to our house just to bring about an end to Dasharath and send me to exile and get the kingship for Bharata. It appears that that was the sole reason why she came to our dynasty. And he says Kaikeyi can even persecute Kausalya and Sumitra because they have a relationship with me. And Queen Sumitra, she's going to suffer a lot because she has so much affinity towards us. She's always protecting us. She's always supporting us. Then Ramachandra said, "These are the reasons why, O son of Sumitra, you should actually go back to Ayodhya. Please go back to Ayodhya. Hereafter, I think you should also take leave." And he starts crying and he says, "No woman should give birth to a son like me. I have caused so much pain and perpetual grief for my mother. "Oh, Lakshman, so please go and give protection to both our mothers. That is the best thing that you can do at this point in time." So he began to cry and lament. Ramachandra was crying actually. He was crying and he was lamenting, telling, "Oh, Saumitri, oh, Lakshmana, please go back. I think you should really take care of our parents." And at that time, Lakshman, he said, "Hey, Ram, without you, we cannot survive even for a moment. We will be like a fish out of water." Prabhupada often gives this example of fish out of water, right? You can see it in the verses of Ramayana. So Lakshman says, "Without you, Sita and me will be like fish out of fish out of water. And without you, we don't want to go and see Sumitra or Shatrughna or even enter heaven. We don't want anything. We just want to be with you." So Lakshman convinces Ram and he says, "Don't think that we are going to be happy going back. And Sumitra and Kausalya, they'll take care of themselves. Shatrughna is going to come back. Everything will be fine. They will take good care of themselves. So you please don't worry about them, but we both will not leave you at any point in time." Then eventually Ramachandra allows Lakshman to also stay back. So from then on, the two Raghus, they decided to be very, very, bold. They never admitted fear or agitation. That's what Valmiki says. That was the last day they lamented, thinking about the citizens of Ayodhya, thinking about their father and mothers. So they spent that entire night under a big tree. And finally, the sun slowly started rising. So like this, they went through different places and different forests. And next day morning also, they began to walk. So while they began to walk, they walked quite a lot through the woods. And finally, they could see some smoke that was coming near the region of Prayag, the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna. So the minute they could see that Ganga and Yamuna were actually meeting at this point and there was some smoke coming out in the forested area, they could understand that it was the region of the hermitages of sages. And they had heard that Bharatwaj Muni was staying in the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna. So they understood that that was the dwelling of Bharatwaj Muni. And they go to the hut where Bharatwaj Rishi was there, and they fold their palms and they go and introduce themselves. Bharatwaj Rishi at this point in time, he was in meditation. He was surrounded by a group of disciples. They had a sacrificial fire and they were doing a yajna. And finally, slowly when he got off from his meditation, Lakshmana, Sita and Lord Ramachandra, they go and introduce themselves with folded palms. They say that, "Oh sage, we both are Rama, Lakshmana, and this is Sita. We are exiled to the forest, so we just want to introduce ourselves and take your darshan." At that time, Bharatwaj had already known that they were exiled to the forest. He immediately says, "Yes, my dear son, I heard about your unjust banishment. So you please stay here for some time with us in the confluence of the two rivers. In fact, this is a very good place for you to spend the rest of your exile." He offers them madhuparka. That is, I think it's a combination of honey and jaggery. There is a mixture. Okay. So he offers that and he asks them to stay with them for a while. But then Ramachandra says, "Yes, I will stay here for some time, but I don't think I can settle here for too long, simply because this place is not very far away from where people live. It is very close to towns and cities. So I should not be staying in such places which is close to towns and cities. So I need to go further. But you please suggest a good place for us to spend our 14 years in the forest." So that is when Bharatwaj Rishi, he says, 60 miles from here, my dear son, there is a sacred mountain by the name Chitrakoot. That mountain is always visited by great sages. And these great sages are always performing great austerities and yajnas there. And it is a very pious land. And not only that, there are a variety of animals like monkeys, bears, and deers, and so many different beautiful species of birds and flowers and trees. So that is the perfect place for you to go and stay. That is as good as the Gandhamadana mountain in the Himalayas. So if you live in the peaks of the Chitrakoot mountain, you will successfully complete your stay there. And not only that, your mind will never be inclined towards any sin. That is the power of the Chitrakoot mountain. So that particular night, on the invitation of Bharadwaja Muni, they stayed in Bharadwaja ashram that night. Okay, but then the next day they decided to go to the forest. Now this is the place where there is a verse where Lakshmana is sleeping and Ramchandra is waking up Lakshmana. So yes, last class also we discussed, right? About this point. Hema Gopika Mataji had sent. Yes, Lakshmana also sleeps. So this is the verse. I just wanted to put this verse just because to show that we discussed this yesterday, or maybe not yesterday, last session. So just put the verse here. Anyone wants to read the verse? Ataratriyam, this one. Yes, Hema Gopika.
अथ रात्र्यां यतीतायाम् अवसुप्तम् अनन्तरं प्रबोधयामास शनैः लक्ष्मणं रघुनन्दनः.
Mataji, translation also.
Yeah. Then Rama gently woke up Lakshmana, who was sleeping without break, even when the night was passing away.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Yeah. So he said, "Oh, Lakshman, wake up. Do you hear the sound of wild animals? It's time for our journey. So wake up. The birds are chirping. We have to go. So let's go quickly, take a bath, and proceed into the forest." So they all wake up, they go, they have a bath, and they are ready to move on to the forest. And they start walking to the forest. And at that time, Ramchandra, he shows Sita different trees and flowers and fruits. And he names them. He says, "Do you see this? This is a mango tree. You see this? This is a neem tree." So he's giving her a biology class and naming all the species of the plants and the birds. And then finally, they reach the mountain of Chitrakuta, which was very pleasant and lovely to look at. So this is also a view of the Chitrakuta from here. That little goat is looking at Chitrakoot from here. So anyway, they go there and they finally reach the mountain. So when they reach the mountain, Ramachandra, he tells his brother, "This is such a holy place. Great sages have been residing in this mountain. So it will be a beautiful resort for us." And they also see Valmiki Muni's ashram at this place. So that is an important point to note, because when you saw the very first verse of the Valmiki Ramayana, Tapasvadhyaya Niratam Tapasvim Bhagvidambaram Naradam Paripapracha Valmiki Muni Pungavam. Where was he? Anyone remembers where Valmiki was? Was he in Chitrakoot? No, right? He was not in Chitrakoot. He was in Tamasa river, Tamasa Nadi. Remember, Yat Krauncha Mitunadekam Avadim Kamamohitam. Oh, you hunter, you violently killed one of the two Krauncha birds. All that scene was happening in Tamasa river. That is somewhere near Ayodhya. I mean, much far away from here. But at this point in time, Valmiki Muni was in near Chitrakoot. Then commentators, they say, actually, this is the nature of rishis. They don't settle in one place for too long. We all know sannyasis also, they don't stay in one city for more than 3 nights, right? So like that, those days, rishis also, they would keep changing their location. Apparently, Valmiki knew that Ramchandra is going to cross this place, so he temporarily put his location there for some time. Then later, he transfers himself to the banks of the river Tamasa. Actually, the first verse of Valmiki Ramayana happened in the future. This is the story is being told by Lavakusha, right? So this is in the past, what we are seeing now. And much later, so at this point, Valmiki is in Chitrakoot. But later he moves to Tamasa, and that is when the curse happens. And then later he trains Lavakusha. So the curse, he writing down Ramayana, training Lavakusha, all happens after Sita goes to Valmiki's ashram in Tamasa river when she's banished for the second, when she's banished later, when she's pregnant. That is when scene 1 of Ramayana is. So I just wanted to connect all these dots. Anyway, so now let's come back to past tense, okay? So Lavakusha are telling us the story, and this Ramachandra and so on, Ramachandra, Sita, Lakshman, they have gone near Valmiki's ashram, that is near Chitrakoot. And Valmiki welcomes them and he asks them to sit and he offers them a grand welcome there. Okay. So after getting all the hospitality from Valmiki, they go into the Chitrakoot mountains and they try to find a place where they can settle. So Ramachandra, he tells Lakshman, bring some strong timber and wood and construct a nice dwelling. I think we should settle down here. My mind is so fascinated looking at the dwellings here. So hearing these words of Rama, Lakshman, he goes and he brings the wood from various trees and he started constructing a leaf hut. And then Rama tells something important. He says, first we should perform a purificatory ceremony before we enter the house. Even if it is a small dwelling, it is recommended in Shastra that you should perform a purificatory ceremony. That's why even to this day we do Griha Pravesham before we enter a house, right? So some purificatory ceremony should be done even if it is a rented house, even if it is a mobile house, whatever it is. It is a good habit to perform some purification rites. So now Rama tells Lakshman, we have to perform that ceremony. So let's get ready. And they perform a small ceremony like a yajna, and then they are ready to enter the house. So Rama tells that we'll be very, very happy here in Chitrakuta mountain. And this place is frequently visited by birds and nice, beautiful animals. And like this, they thought that this is the ideal place, and the agony that they were having in their heart because of being exiled and being separated from their father and mother would now be dispelled because of the wonderful environment that is there in the Chitrakuta mountain. Now, what happened to Sumantra? Sumantra was still staying with Guha. Remember, Ramchandra left him there and he came all the way through Chitrakoot. But Sumantra was still waiting there. So Sumantra, after he got the news that Ramchandra had proceeded to Chitrakoot, he was ready to move to Ayodhya. Actually, Ramchandra reaches Chitrakoot on the 10th day from his exile. That is what I remember from the commentary. Yeah, 10th day? Yeah, must be 10th day. Yeah. Or 5th day. No. I will get back to you on this, okay? I didn't write it down. Okay, so he reaches Chitrakoot and now he receives the news. It had taken them a few days to go till Chitrakoot. So Sumantra, he had received the news that Ramachandra had already reached Chitrakoot and he would be settling there. So now it was time for him to go back to Ayodhya. Some messengers came and told him the news. So Guha's messengers, they came and they gave the news to Sumantra that Ram has now reached Chitrakoot, so you can proceed back to Ayodhya. So now Sumantra, he goes back to Ayodhya, and when he goes to Ayodhya, again, it is the evening time, the third half of the day, which is the evening. And he saw that the city was very joyless. Nobody was happy. It looked very deserted. Nobody was even coming out of the house. And but then as soon as, I mean, it looked very morose, the entire city. But then the minute they heard Sumantra's chariot, horses, galloping, they thought, oh, maybe Ramchandra has come back. So they all came running out of the house and they went and asked Sumantra, where is Ram? Where is Ram? Where is Ram? And they were utterly disappointed because they didn't see Ram in the chariot. So Sumantra had to explain to them. He said, actually, after bidding farewell to Ram in the shores of the river Ganga, he proceeded to Chitrakoot. And after ensuring that he safely reached that place, then I started returning to Ayodhya. So, but the citizens were so disappointed and they started crying very loudly. They were thinking, oh, you didn't bring back Ram. And Sumantra was actually so embarrassed at one point in time because people were coming and literally, pouncing on him. It is mentioned that he was trying to put a cloth over his head and cover his face out of shame that he couldn't bring back Ram. And he started walking in the royal pathway and he went to the palace. So Sumantra, he went to the palace of Dasharath, and Dasharath welcomed him. And when Dasharath saw Sumantra without Ramachandra, he was also hoping Ram will come back. But then Dasharath fainted. And Kausalya told Dasharath to inquire about Ram, whether he is comfortably situated, where is he, and all the details. So Dasharath asked Sumantra about the whereabouts of Ram, whether he's faring good, if everything was okay. And then Dasharath also asks, did Ram send me a message? Is there something I should know about him? Then Sumantra said, Ram has a message for you. He said, give my respects to my father and inquire about the health of all my mothers. And he especially offered his special respects to Kausalya. He requested Kausalya to continue with her prayers and rituals and asked her not to hate Dasharath and accept Bharat as her own son. He also sent a message to Bharata that he should attend to his father and all the mothers and not ignore Kausalya. So these are the messages that are sent by Ramachandra, Sumantra said. Then Dasharath asked, what is the message of Lakshman? Now Sumantra said, but Lakshman, on his part, he was very angry and he was breathing like a snake. And he said, what offense did this Prince Ram do for him to be expelled from home? O Dasharath, you have taken shelter under a wretched woman like Kaikeyi, and you have done an act that should never be performed. So we are all tormented by your actions. I do not see any justification for Ram's abandonment. Whatever you did is completely illegal. I don't consider you anymore as my father. For me, Ram is my brother. He's my Lord. He's my relative. He's my father. You are no one to me. So this was the message of Lakshman. Very, very heavy message. And it was conveyed by Sumantra. Dasharath kind of expected. What else do you expect, right? So then Sumantra said, but Sita, Dasharath asked, how is my daughter-in-law? And Sumantra said, this is a kind of misfortune that should never come to a princess. She was so distressed. She didn't speak to me anything. She was choked up with tears and she was just wiping her tears continuously. Words didn't come out of her mouth. But her attitude was filled with respect. That is Sita. So this is the message that Sumantra gives Dasharath. And Sumantra said, I had so much hope that I would be called back by Rama after 2-3 days after he went to Chitrakoot. I stayed with Guha for 3 days, but still there's no news that Rama wants me to go with him. So I had to come back. And when I entered the city of Ayodhya, it was so deserted. And people, when they heard the galloping of the horses, they thought Ram has come. And they came in hundreds and thousands. But when they didn't see Ram, they started lamenting again and again. Now everybody hates me. Nobody's greeting me in Ayodhya. I had to cover my face and come to your place. And having not seen Ram, the lamentation of the people is increasing so much. So Dasharath, he started crying and he said, take me to Ram. Ram should be brought back to Ayodhya. What will I do without Ram? I'll die without Ram. He says that and he faints and he falls down. He says, oh Ram, oh Lakshman, Sita, I'm dying in grief. I'm going to give up my life, it appears. He says that and he falls unconscious. And that's when Kausalya comes and picks him up. And she's also worried because he this time he really cried so hard that he fell unconscious and he said, I will soon die. So then Kausalya, she was also crying for all that had happened. And she says that actually whatever you did is really not correct, my dear husband. Whatever you did, you just listened to the words of that wretched lady and you sent away Ram into the forest. For a woman, her husband is her first refuge. Her second refuge is her son. The third is a near relative, and there is no fourth refuge. So that these are the refuges for a woman. But then among these 3 refuges, actually, the truth is husband should be the first refuge. But for me, you don't even exist. This is what Kausalya said. And Ram, on his part, he has taken refuge in the forest. So how can I go there? So like this, she says, you have ruined everybody's life. And she says, even if Ram comes back to Ayodhya after the 15th year, you think he will come and accept this kingdom? He may not even accept this kingdom that is enjoyed by Bharat. He will come and tell, let Bharat only rule. I don't want to rule. So this kingdom, the neighboring states, me, my son, everybody, you have ruined everybody. You have ruined your ministers. You have ruined your son. The citizens are ruined. Bharat and Kaikeyi are the only people who would be happy. So actually, even Sumantra and Kausalya, they also say the Sita is such a great person. Her heart is always directed only to Ram, and she's always dependent on him. And she said she has lived to the fact that wherever Ram is, that is Ayodhya for her. And she says the story will thrive in this world forever, whatever you have done and whatever this great tragedy has befallen all of us. So when Dashrath heard these words of Kausalya, he begins to lament. And in fact, he also speaks to Kausalya and he accepts his mistake. And he also glorifies Kausalya for being such a patient woman all her life. And it was 5 days since they left the forest. I said 10, I'm sorry. It was 5 days since they left the forest. Now, Dasharath Maharaj, he began to recount his sin. This is another turning point, which means we will stop, right? So when there is a cliffhanger, we will stop there. So now Dasharath Maharaj, he tried to tell Kausalya that, yeah, I've done a lot of mistakes. You have been extremely patient. Dasharath started recalling all the sins that he has performed. He started telling that only because I'm such a sinful person, all this has befallen me. And because of me, so many people are suffering. I want to tell you, Kausalya, about something that happened in the past. After Ram was sent to exile in the forest, Dasharath, on the 6th night at midnight, he was recalling his sin that was done. So this was the 6th night when Dasharath decided to recall the sin that he had performed long, long ago when he was a young prince. So he tells Kausalya that I had performed a sin when I was young and I was wielding a bow. At that time, I was very famous that I could ride the chariot in 10 directions. I was a great Kshatriya. I had mastery over different kinds of weapons. I knew to use a weapon called as the Shabdavedi Bhana, which is an arrow. If you tell the arrow, go and hit the source of the sound, it will go in search of that particular sound that was created and it will go and hit the source of that sound. So he was an expert in using such arrows. So he said, one day when I was not married and I was a young prince, it was a rainy season, and out of excitement and desire for hunting, I set out into the forest. And it was the beautiful shore of the Sarayu River. I was trading along. I was wearing bows and arrows. And at that time, I heard a sound. The sound seemed to be like a wild animal that is drinking water from the Sarayu lake. So, understanding that a violent beast had come there, I employed the Shabdaved Divan that actually started going. So he shot the Shabdavedi barn towards the beast, and we will stop right there. We'll wait for the barn to go for 1 week, and we'll talk about it in our next class. I finished like 5-7 minutes early. That's okay. But if you have any questions, comments, realizations, we can take that.
Mataji, I think so you would have completed it.
I thought I'll go over time, so I stopped the slide there. My bad timing.
Thank you so much. It was excellent class. Yes, Hemaki Gopeshwari Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for this nectarian narration. It's beautiful. I just wanted to understand, like Kshatriyas went hunting. Was it recreational hunting? And the other thing is, were they allowed to eat what they hunted?
The hunting was it was recreational as well as it was for practice. And also sometimes they would hunt. There is one verse where Ramchandra himself says that I used to go hunting in these places, I remember, and I used to go so that the sages who are in the forest are not disturbed. Like sometimes you have to kill wild animals that are disturbing the people who are dwelling in the forest. So, like that, Kshatriyas would take charge. That was their practice sessions and recreational as well, because that was a sport for them. And did they eat the meat? Kshatriyas were allowed to eat meat, okay, but reckless hunting for eating meat was not permitted. Okay, so like for example, to eat meat, they had to follow certain rules and regulations for sacrifice that they could eat. But in the forest, again, the rules for people dwelling in the forest was different. They were allowed to hunt, acquire animals, and eat them. This was the nature of the life in those thicket forests where there was no, what is that, like growing grains and all that. Like in the thick forest inside, people who are dwelling there, they were allowed to eat meat. Of course, not the sages who are living on a very frugal diet, not for them. But generally, they would just live on fruits, leaves, and tubers. That's all. They had a very frugal way of living. But if there was somebody who was in the forest, a Kshatriya in the forest, he was allowed to, if he didn't have food for a long time, he was allowed to hunt and eat. Yes. But they do the sacrifice in the proper way.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
I think so. Everybody is absorbed. Parima Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what a wonderful class again. Mataji, but we don't hear that Lord Ram ever hunted and ate meat, right?
Yeah, he hunted and ate meat.
No, he didn't.
He ate.
Lord Ram.
I mean, I'm just saying as it is. I'm not covering up anything. Yeah, he did. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong. He's a Kshatriya. He's in the forest. He's the supreme lord. Take it as it is. That's all.
So during his exile, you mean he did it?
During the exile. Yeah. During the exile. Yeah.
Okay.
At least that is what is mentioned in the pages of Ramayana. What he did in the palace is not mentioned, but what he did in exile is mentioned.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, that's lifestyle, Mataji. So it's okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
The
Same.
Lord's human-like pastimes are inconceivable. So nicely, Rachna Mataji said that. Very nice. Very well said, Mataji. His human-like pastimes are inconceivable. Yeah.
The way Parima Mataji reacted, I reacted the same way when I came to know first time.
Yeah. In Prabhupada, the conversations you can read. Prabhupada said, yes, he ate meat. You can read the conversation of Prabhupada. It's very nice, actually. I like that conversation so much.
That time when I came to know, I had the same reaction as that of Parima Mataji.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we don't want to accept, right? Like it's normal. It's as devotees, we like to, no, my Lord didn't do that. So, yeah, that's natural affection we have. Yeah.
Dear devotees, anyone else has any questions?
Just on the same line, Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the beautiful class. Then why does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita that only a leaf, flower, fruit, all of these is what he would accept or whatever?
Yeah, so Archana Paddhati. So when you're worshipping deities, there are rules and regulations. Satvika deities should be offered only certain things. He accepts only that in the form of a deity. But again, we don't read anywhere that Krishna ate meat in the scriptures. At least I'm not read. But Ramchandra in the forest, while he was like living like a hunter-gatherer as needed, he did eat meat. Okay. Now, when you're the same Ramachandra, when you're worshipping as a deity, you cannot offer meat to him. He doesn't accept. Pancharatrika Vidhi is different. Okay, you have to follow rules and regulations. There he accepts only mixed variety rice and buttermilk, panakam. All that. Okay.
Mataji.
Any other thoughts? I thought you all will ask one interesting question, but you didn't ask. But it's okay, I'll wait till you ask that question. Okay. Rachna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So the question, yes, is that why did you showed a picture of Guha, washing the feet of Lord Ram, but you didn't say it in your description. So I was wondering if he actually did wash. There's a big story, about how Guha, the whole reason why he wanted to wash the feet, that, oh, my boat will become a woman, and then I have already a woman at home, and all that story. So you didn't say anything about that. So,
Yeah, that story is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana, but I've heard the story in other versions.
And that is not Guha, that's Kevat.
Okay, what?
now
The driver.
Kevat is actually a boatman.
And Guha was
Kevat is not a name. Kevat means just a person who's a boatman. Guha is actually the name of a king, But I get the point. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not, that's the thing, Mataji. So there was no mention of this. But yes, pictures from Google. Yes. Mm. Popular rendition is lot of Tulsi's Ramayana is what is most popular, right? Tulsidas Ramayana is most popular. Yeah, but here there is no mention that he washes. They just embrace in a friendly way. That's how it is mentioned. That's all, and no more stories. I've heard in some other Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana or something, there is Sita Devi. So after she's married, there is a dialogue in Kamba Ramayana, which I've heard. I've not read Kamba Ramayana, but I've just heard that Sita Devi is so scared to uh, she's so scared that she didn't want Ramachandra to touch any of her jewels or the stones or whatever she was wearing, simply because there is a very funny dialogue where she says, if you just delivered a woman, there in Kamba Ramayana, it is a stone. Okay, here there's no stone. Valmiki doesn't say stone. Valmiki says she was Adrishya, meaning she was not seen, meaning she was like just existing there like air. But in that, I think even Tulsidas Ramayana says stone, right? I don't know, maybe. So there is a dialogue where Sita says, okay, don't touch, because if you touch a stone or any object like that, it all turns into women. I don't want any more women in our room. Something like that. There is a dialogue. I've heard this in the past, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess all the versions, as long as they're coming from some sort of authentic source, are appreciated, Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Hemangi Gopeshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. One more question, just curious, pardon my ignorance. So these different versions of Ramayana, are they revelations to these writers that they wrote it the way they wrote it?
Yes, it's revelation. It was a revelation. So, as far as Valmiki is concerned, Valmiki was seeing it happen. He was a contemporary when the whole thing was happening, and he was able to have that visual of what is happening now, what has just happened, and what is going to happen. Like that, he was empowered by Narada Muni, and he was writing during that time. And he said what happened as it is. Okay, just like that, he was writing. But the other versions came much later as revelations, and in the heart of a pure devotee, these scenes again manifest. Okay. And they see certain things which maybe is not there what Valmiki saw. They are also seeing some things, but it's finally approved. Like, for example, I've heard Tulsidas Ramayana was approved by Hanuman, if I'm not wrong. Kamba Ramayana was approved by Lord Narsimha, who roared from the pillar. So there are many Ramayans that are approved, but they have certain extra stories which may not be there in the Valmiki Ramayana. Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can we understand in this way that, like you said, that Valmiki was a contemporary and he wrote as it is.
Mhm.
But other commentators, they wrote much later and they must be seeing in their Samadhi Dasha in some other universe happening.
Yes, why not? Because these scriptures, like very good point, Mataji, because these scriptures, they are so vast. And like we say, Mahabharata has 1 lakh verses, but in the higher planetary systems, it has so many more, 10 lakhs or something we say, right? Like that, many of these scriptures, they are so vast. They are happening in different places and it's continuously happening. So Jiva Goswami always speaks about, what is that? Kalpabhed, right? Kalpabhed, meaning different kalpa, different way the same pastimes are happening. And these pastimes are happening in different universes, like you said. So they are seeing different situations of the same thing. There are other renditions of Bhagavatam, like for example, one of not full Bhagavatam, but almost Bhagavatam in a synopsis. Or some commentators write about Srimad Bhagavatam, but something different is revealed to them. The same pastime, they say it in a little different way. So, like that.
So the Ramayana happened 2 kalpas back. It's not that this Treta Yuga Ram Lord Rama came. He came in the 26th Divya Yuga.
Correct. So 26th Divya Yuga, yeah. 2
Thousand,
chapters before. Yeah.
so many years passed.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami says it was 24th Divya, 26th Divya, 24th.
6th.
26th. Divya Yuga, yeah.
Thank
Rupa Goswami.
you.
So we don't know actually, a lot of things keep changing and
Hare Krishna, Mataji. One more thing. Now, Prabhupada wanted us to follow Valmiki Ramayana. Isn't that the way it is?
yes, Prabhupada, that's why we are studying Valmiki Ramayana. So generally I address the questions that come from other renditions. Many people have, oh, is the story there? Is that story not there? Like that. So Prabhupada definitely wanted us to study Valmiki's Ramayana because it's the original. Generally, even commentators, acharyas and all, they comment on the original script, right? That's how it is, tradition. So we just follow the tradition. But again, we respect everybody. There is no, because if you see, for example, Prabhupada also had adapted a lot of retellings from Tulsi's Ramayana in the purports. For example, I'll give you one example. Floating stones. This is not there in Valmiki Ramayana. Okay. Valmiki Ramayana gives a very engineering outlook to the entire thing. How they built the bridge. He goes step by step. Layer 1 was made out of this material. Layer 2 was made out of this material. And the bridge was built on top of a ridge. So he gives very structural analysis of the bridge. Valmiki. He doesn't say they wrote Ram, they threw it and it floated. It's not there. But it's there in Tulsi Ramayana. So, but Prabhupada also adapted certain retellings from Tulsi Ramayana as well, if you see the purpose of Prabhupada. But the recommendation, gold standard, Prabhupada always says, gold standard is Valmiki, follow Valmiki. Yes, we can appreciate what the revelation is there in the hearts of other devotees, but the gold standard is to follow the original. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Praladanand Prabhu.
Don Pranam Mataji. I have heard so many lectures of Sripad Radha Govinda Swami, not on Ramayana, but Bhagavatam especially. And many of his lectures, he has mentioned a word known as Utpreksha. Utpreksha is one where commentator realizes, and he gives different kind of explanation. For example, when Lord Sri Krishna killed Putana, he closed his eyes. Why did he close eyes when killing Putana like that? So many Utprekshas, and he always mentions different acharyas who have their realizations like that. So what I understand in that context is, that although Valmiki Ramayana is authentic like that, but then, for me or for so many of us to accept the Lord Ram to meet absolutely kind of unacceptable like that, like that. And so that's how kind of thing is. But what I personally feel is that, whatever I like from the Acharya's commentaries, and what, I feel comfortable with that, I would accept and kind of, not to put controversy on my own mind, and preserve my devotion to Lord Ram, like that. That kind of adjustment I personally made about this. And about, Lord Ram hunting in the forest, I heard some commentator saying that, he was killing those animals which, like those deers, musk deers. The musk is so ripe and they are suffering so much that, he will end their life. And also those which are suitable for offering to the sacrifice.
Correct.
That's those ones, they were
Yes.
kind of, so this kind of explanation we find. So this is, but Ramayana is Ramayana, everybody grew up with Ramayana and Hanumanji like that. So we have all special devotion for Lord Rama and Hanumanji and all, Lakshmana and all that. But very nice that, we are discussing and you are giving us such nectar. Thank you very much for that, Mata.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's true. Actually, since Prabhu said about the animals that can be sacrificed, that can be killed even for meat also, later this topic comes when Vali is killed. Vali says, Pancha Panchanaka Bhakshya, only 5 clawed certain animals can be even killed for meat. Why are you killing me? I'm not of any use. Is the monkey's hair used for anything? Is the monkey's claw used for anything? Can you make ornaments out of my skin? Can you make leather out of my skin? What can you do with me? You can't even eat my meat because it's forbidden. Only certain meats one can eat. That too after sacrifice. So he argues like that later, Vali. And then, of course, he gets defeated in his argument because Ram talks to him so nicely, word by word. He argues back, and Vali says, "Okay, you are the supreme Lord. Whatever you said is 100% right." So, okay, so we'll end here, and I'm still waiting for that question. That when you all will ask that question. But it's there throughout the Ramayana. So that question, any day you might all ask that question, and then we leave it an open controversy question. Okay. So we'll end here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Valmiki Ramayana ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Vilasini Mataji ki jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Unlimited.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam
Thank
to
Hare
you.
Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Next Monday, right, Mataji?
By the way, just 1 second. I'll let everybody drop. Okay. Monday, I'm traveling, Kirtida. So what should we do? We can either do on Thursday or we can do the week after.
Can we do it on Tuesday?
No, Thursday. Tuesday, I'm traveling back. So again, I can't do on Tuesday. Either we can do Thursday or we can do the week after. I mean, we'll skip that week.
Let's do on Thursday if possible.
Huh?
Let's do on Thursday.
But
Okay, come back, Mataji. We'll see how the situation is. Then we'll.
yeah, we'll decide. Or we can skip because I don't think you're on Thursday. They're on Thursday. So let's figure that out. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please
Hare
end.
Krishna, Mataji. Yeah.
Ending.